Hi there. Stepping into the spotlight is something that is so hard for many of us. Even celebrities or people that have to often present in front of others sometimes admit that they're actually introverts and they struggle getting up on stage or getting in front of people, even though it is a critically important part of their job. The number one fear of people is public speaking. And public speaking comes in many different forms. It can be a traditional presentation where you're standing on a stage in front of an audience. It could be getting in front of a camera on video, or it could even be walking up to a small group of strangers at a networking event and talking about what you do. I believe all of those areas are different types of public speaking. And while standing in the spotlight does definitely take courage, it is a requirement for some of us who, as part of our job, need to step into our role and be the face of our brands. I'm Jennifer Roberts. I am the owner of Back Porch Communications, and today I'm talking about how you can step into your role to be the face of your brand and why you would even want to in some cases. This is week number 5 of our video series on being the boss of your brand, and we have a lot more to come for the rest of 2021. Each week, I'm going to have new tips and new topics for you on how you can achieve and step into that role of being the boss of your brand. So last week we talked a little bit about what it takes to be a trusted guide for your ideal customers. And that is someone that they can rely on. If you missed that video, go back and check it out. But this topic is kind of similar in nature because it requires us to step out of our comfort zone and into a space publicly talking about areas that we have expertise in our particular industry. So I want to start us at the beginning of this topic. Who should be the face of your brand? Do you know if you're even the right person in your organization that should step into that role? So I have a few questions that might spark some ideas for you. Are you the top person in your company or organization? Do you have the title of CEO, president, boss? If all of those are true for you, you might need to be the boss of your brand, and as well, the face of your brand. Do you have a role in the organization in communications, marketing, or public relations? Do you have a role in your organization that is external affairs, community partnerships, government relations, fundraising, or sales? If these are part of your role, you likely will need to be the face of your brand. Do you work in politics? Are you a politician? Do you work at high levels of government, whether that be local, state, or national levels? If that's the case, and you answered yes to any of these questions, it is likely on your job description that you need to be the face of your brand. And that looks like building relationships in the community, forming partnerships with others, things like that. Selling, all of that means you need to be out networking, getting in the community, being the face of your brand. So, honestly though, I want to take a quick pause here because the question that I asked, should you be the face of your brand? Okay, it's a little bit of a trick question. The reality is everyone in your organization needs to be the face of your brand. In today's world, we all need to be able to articulate what our companies do and how we provide value inside those companies. Everyone, all the way to the front line to the CEO, needs to be able to articulate that message in a way that's consistent for the organization, especially if you're looking to climb the ladder in your organization. Representing your organization is important. Now, you might not be doing speaking engagements, you might not be creating content, but You do have friends, family, neighbors, people that you run into at the grocery store. There are opportunities for you to talk about your organization in a variety of different ways that can have an impact on how others see what you do and what your organization does. And that is critically important. Now, today's video is really focused on being the face of your brand when it is in your job description to do so. So that is what I'm going to focus on today. And I've got some tips for you on ways that you can step into the role as the face of your brand. Okay, first one is networking. Yes, I know that sounds very obvious, but getting out into the community where you live or online, whatever is appropriate for your industry and what you do, meeting people who might benefit from what you offer is very important. How do you start networking? Okay, let's talk about that. Join community, civic, business, networking groups for that purpose. Choose groups that align with what you do where you might find your ideal client. And there are online groups you can join in as well that you can be part of a community of people who you can serve, okay? So think about where your ideal client might be hanging out, people that use the product or service that you offer, and that would be a great group to join. You also want to be prepared with a 20 to 30 second elevator speech. What is an elevator speech? It is a sentence or two about what you and your organization does, okay? So if you don't have one of these, think about it for a minute. You want to include things like what you do, who you serve, and what you offer. That wrap all of that into a sentence or two, get it into 20 seconds that you can articulate easily at a cocktail party, and you've got it, okay? So those are critically important things you need to get out there and start networking. Speak in your community is number 2 on my Be the Face of Your Brand list. All kinds of groups look for public speakers. Think about what you offer and how you can provide information that would be helpful to others. Bonus points if your ideal client is in the audience, right? Research what is available in your community, who's looking for public speakers, and how you could also speak in online communities as well. That might be a better fit for your organization. And please remember, I'm not advocating for you to go out and become a public speaker and travel around and be, unless that's what you want to do. These are free types of speaking engagements where you are just getting yourself out there and helping people understand who you are and what you offer. Okay, number 3 tip on being the face of your brand is creating content. Teach others what you do using videos, social media, podcasts, blogs, or content for your website. Think about what your ideal client needs to know when they work with you. Understanding that will give you great ideas for creating content. Give helpful information that's going to build know, like, and trust relationships with your ideal client. Those types of relationships are what it's going to take for people to have confidence in buying from you. All right, tip number 4, be an expert source. Get on someone else's podcast, be a guest on someone else's podcast, or be interviewed by a journalist as an expert in your industry. Now, before we dive into this any deeper, I want to say that these are advanced techniques. They do take some special skills to be able to get in there, build relationships with journalists, build relationships with podcasters, find the right fit, be able to pitch yourself. There's a variety of steps that have to take place. So understand that this is an advanced tactic, okay? But it is an effective way to be the face of your brand and become an industry expert. Ultimately, the goal of being the face of your brand is to become the name that other people think of when they need what you do. If you are an expert in marketing and public relations, how do you become the name that is top of mind for people in your area or in your online community? That's what you want to achieve by being the face of your brand. So I want to acknowledge that I threw out 4 big ways that you can step into the spotlight: networking, speaking in your community, creating content, and being an expert source. I want to acknowledge that all of those, for many people, are very scary to put themselves out there in that way. People often have thoughts and questions running around in their head that prevent them from stepping into that place in the spotlight. This is what some of those questions might sound like. What will people think of me if I go out there and say, I'm an expert? What if I mess up and say something embarrassing? What if I don't like how I look and I don't want people to see the me of this brand? This is just the tip of the iceberg of some of the mental work and the mindset work that needs to happen for you to be able to step into being the face of your brand. Lots of people never get past that step to be able to go out and do the things that they need to do to be recognized for the industry expert that they are. So what I want to share with you is that next week's video of this Be the Boss of Your Brand video series is going to talk about my 4 tips on how you can get your mindset straight, how you can prepare and practice for presentations that you might have, whether that's public speaking, whether it's online, whether it's in video, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to give you some tips. It's going to be the face of your brand part 2 of our video series. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. So if you have anxiety about stepping into your role of being the face of your brand, show up here next week. I will have tips for you and how you can actually overcome that. Okay? So please stay with me. I know that there are some people in the world that have enough chutzpah to jump out there and get into the spotlight and feel great about it and thrive on it. But I know that that is not the majority of the people in the world. Most of them are scared to death of doing that. And so I want to be able to offer you some tips and guidance on ways that you can step into being the face of your brand and get confident and prepared to be able to do that. Okay, as I mentioned, we've got lots more to come in this video series. Next week is Be the Face of Your Brand Part 2, and we've got more to come all the way through the rest of 2021, all focused on being the boss of your brand. If you missed any of them, just roll back to previous weeks. They are all there for you. All right, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you found this helpful. I'm Jen Roberts. I'm the owner of Back Porch Communications, and as always, I am here to help. See you next time.